paper here. Go. It is getting caught here. Let me grab, I got a little strawberry swirl ooze. And I'm actually going to score this inside my Dutch oven because I have a feeling that when I score it, it's wanting to ooze. And that way it stays in there and it will keep our little sugar delicious on it. So I'm gonna slide this guy in here. And this is our Dutch oven that's nice and hot. He is so fat. Whoa. I should have put a bigger Dutch oven on this one. Okay. He's gonna turn out beautiful no matter what. Let's get him scored. This is winning at life here, guys. Okay. There. That did not score well for me, but he's gonna pop anyways. Let's pop it in there. This one we made up, so he's on his last leg. So we're gonna pop this guy in the oven. I forgot to bake him up earlier, but he's still gonna be delicious. I have faith in him. So we're gonna slide this guy in the oven and we're gonna bake for 500 for 20 minutes. And then we'll take the lid off and we will bake for 500 or 450 for 20 minutes. While we are waiting, let's get our apples peeled and starting to cook in our pans because they always take a little while. Then we're gonna whip up our twice baked potatoes. I've already baked my potatoes, so we'll just de-stuff them and make them delicious. Okay, so we're gonna use some Pink Lady apples, which are a nice firm apple that has got a little bit of a tartness to them. So they're a pretty good option. You can also use Granny Smith. You want firm tart apples when you're making spiced apples or baked goods. Try to stay away from like the Golden Delicious or Red Delicious. Those are soft and mealy and get mushy when you cook them. Okay, so we're just going to kind of core them and peel off their skins, and then we'll slice them up and we'll just start cooking them with a little bit of butter, brown sugar, a squeeze of lemon juice, and some cinnamon. So pretty simple, kind of cooked up on there, but delicious. I just feel like spiced apples go well with a twice baked potato. And I love twice baked potatoes. I actually made them like a week ago for this dinner I kind of catered for a friend, and I made 25 of them. And I will say my husband did help out because I was running on time, so I made him scoop out the potato guts and then refill them after I seasoned them up. And he did a pretty good job. I might be able to trust him with some sous chef jobs in the future. Might.
Better not risk it.
But ever since then I was like, oh, I need to make twice baked potatoes because I love them and they look so fantastic. So we're gonna have those tonight. And some green beans with onions because I love a good sauteed green bean and onions. And then on our steaks, I've got some petite sirloins, which are, you know, a decent cut of steak. And we're gonna do kind of a butter garlic kind of season on them. We're gonna like sear them in a, you know, a garlic infused butter on, you know, more of a medium heat versus a super high heat, so that they just get all that extra flavor in it, because sirloins are a leaner cut of meat and the petite ones are not, you know, the big ones for it. So I think that will give it a lot of great flavor. And then we'll get these apples going, but the apples always take a hot minute. And you don't want to leave your skin on, because leaving your skin on is going to make them all chewy and not great. So I've got about half of them cut up here, so I'm going to start slicing them up and then put them in there, and then we'll finish off cutting them. That way the bottom layer can start cooking. So just kind of smaller slices. You don't need to do micro ones because we are going to stew these for a good while on there. If you're going to do pie, go a little thinner, but for just a sliced apple, some good sized chunks work well. Look at these guys going, and I'm going to cook them in my little Dutch oven that I have. It's kind of like a the Le Creuset risotto pan, but it works perfectly for spiced apples. Slide this guy over here. Get our first round in. And then, I think I might have left my lemon over here. We're just gonna squeeze the juice of half of a lemon on it. You just kind of need a little bit of this citrus and tartness to it. Now, if you have apple cider works wonderful as well. But I'm just gonna use lemon because I have a lot of lemons in my fridge right now. Just grab that lemon seed out. So just half a juice, or juice of half a lemon. And then we're gonna use brown sugar because I like the brown sugar flavor, but you can use regular sugar as well. And since we're doing 4 apples here, I'm gonna do like 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. Now Granny Smith, you're gonna wanna use a little bit more because those are even tartar apples. Grab my butter too. And then we're gonna add in just about a teaspoon or so of cinnamon.
Jackie said she made your tilapia and it turned out great.
Oh, good. I'm glad. It's such a good, like, intro to fried fish recipe. I think it's just so delicious on there. We're going to put about a tablespoon of butter in here. And then about a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And the vanilla just really makes these have a nice mellow flavor. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to turn it on, give it a good stir, and that way our apples can start cooking up over here. And just kind of coat it up, and then we're going to just cook these over a kind of medium high heat. I'm going to do about a 6.5 on there, and these are going to just kind of stew up the whole time. We're going to finish cutting up the rest of our apples and add them in there. And then we will prep our baked potatoes. But you know what? Let me take my baked potatoes over here and open them up. I took them out of the oven, but they are going to be very, very hot still to work with. And you want to let them cool just a little bit.
Yo, question, have you ever made homemade ice cream?
I have made homemade ice cream, actually, like several times. I started making homemade ice cream when I was in middle school, and it's a lot of fun. It's delicious. The only problem with homemade ice cream is that you make only a small little batch. I had the Cuisinart ice cream maker, and it always worked well, but as my family got bigger and bigger, it was like so much work for such a small amount. But yes, I do love like a really good homemade ice cream. I used to make mango ice cream all the time. And then I made this one ice cream, and this is fond memories. It was when I had my foreign exchange student living with us. And I made this chocolate Nutella ice cream with cookie dough and brownie bits in it with peanut butter swirl. So it was quite decadent, and it was amazing and delicious, and I'm still talking about it 20 some years later. So obviously it was the best ice cream ever. But it was so good and so rich, and it just had all of my favorite flavors in it. Very decadent. But it was the best ice cream. I'm going to say it's the best ice cream I've ever made. I also make coconut ice cream a lot because my stepdad's favorite kind of desserts are coconut ones, and I always make coconut ice cream for his birthday with a coconut cake because he just loves coconut. There we go. I know I was thinking about making ice cream this summer, and I just never got around to it. So maybe I'll have to make sure I do that next summer. So I have like the fancy Cuisinart where you freeze the bowl, but my mom has like the old school one where you put like salt in there with the ice and it churns in there, like old school. That's always such a mess. Okay, let's get these apples, the rest of them in there with all of our goodness. That way we can be done with the tedious stuff. And these, I always say, so much work, but the apples, they like are gone in like 2 seconds. Teddy and Torin and Evie just absolutely love spiced apples. And my husband loves them, but he typically always lets them have their seconds before he'll go, and there's never any left after that. So let's coat them up, and then we'll let those cook up. Okay, let's get our potatoes going. So they're nice and kind of cooled off a little bit here. That way I can kind of work with them. So you're gonna bake your potatoes until they're soft and kind of squishy. And then you let them cool off so that you can touch them. What I do is I give them a really good scrub down, and then I put a little teeny pat of butter in there and some salt, wrap it up in aluminum foil, and I bake it at 350 for about 2 or so hours. Enough to get it, again, perfectly squishy and delicious so that you can scoop out this inside. Now just when you're scooping out the inside, you don't have to get super close to the skins, you know, just kind of make a little potato canoe. And I will say, my husband last week did an excellent job making little potato canoes, I have to say. I had very little faith in him at the time, and he really surprised me because his cooking skills are non-existent, but he was able to do this and do it really well. They actually looked wonderful. I almost wish I had taken a picture of everything.
I make a pretty mean Lunchable.
Oh yes, the Lunchables. That was when I was in grad school through my various degrees. That's what he would make Papa Bear meals for the kids, and that literally consisted of Lunchables and salami and deli meats, nothing that required cooking whatsoever. And I will say, when I got home at the end of the weekend or whatnot, the kids would be like, "Mama, you're home, we're so hungry."
A little adversity builds character.
Yeah, luckily my doctorate only took 3 years to finish up. And my master's took like 3 years too, so it was a lot of schooling. I don't advise having 5 children. Well, I only had 3 children when I did that. I had 2 after I finished up my degrees, but it was hard, but worth it. Okay, 2 boats down, little potato canoes. And this, what the skin that you cut out, you just kind of get rid of it. I just kind of peel it off so I still keep the delicious potato part on there, but just get rid of the skin because you can't really put it back on.
And what are your degrees in?
So I have like lots of them. So my bachelor's are in early childhood and early childhood special ed. My master's is in early childhood special ed, and my doctorate is in educational leadership and policy. So I got my bachelor's from Iowa State, and I got my master's and my doctorate from Vanderbilt. So all 2 very different places, but I will say I enjoyed them both. They were very different, and you know, learning styles and whatnot, but you know, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought my doctorate was really fun to get. I will say, I'm glad I went back for it and did it, because it was a lot of fun. But now I'm home. I'll eventually use it one day. But right now I'm kind of taking a break to be with my kids, because, you know, this has presented the opportunity, and I got to stay home for a little while, which is really lucky, and just kind of do a little bit of consulting from home, which has been really nice. Okay. A last potato boat up, and then I'll just save 1 regular potato to the side because we've got some crazy people who don't like twice baked potatoes. And then, you know, Evie, she won't even touch a potato.
What have you done so far to the potatoes?
So right now, we bake them with a little bit of butter and salt on them. That's gonna give them a really great tender but kind of flavored skin. And now we're scooping out the base of our potatoes to make our canoes, and then we're gonna make our filling, which is gonna have butter, sour cream, a little bit of cream, garlic, salt, and cheese that we will mash up. And then we're gonna restuff these guys and pop them in the oven and cut until that cheese and all that filling melts together. We give our apples a little stir here. You can see the apple is sweating out its juices now. I'm gonna turn, now that we've got a good body of liquid in there, I'm gonna turn it down to about a 3 or a 4 to do the rest of the cooking. Okay, let me wash my hands real quick. And let's get our butter in here with our potatoes for it to start melting up. I've got 5 potatoes, so I'm gonna use probably like a half a stick of butter.
And how long do you bake them the first time?
So the first time I wrap them up in aluminum foil and I bake them for about 2 hours at 350, or enough until when you squeeze the foil, the potato gives in. You need your potatoes to be nice and soft so that when you scoop them out, they're really easy to mash. And now we're gonna I added in about 4 tablespoons of butter. And then we're gonna add in about a 1/3 cup of sour cream. Just a splash of cream, maybe like a tablespoon or so. And then I'm gonna use, I've got Vermont and Seriously Sharp. So just cheddar cheese, because I love cheddar cheese. And we're gonna do like a handful of each, because I will sprinkle some over the top, but I try not to go too crazy in it. And then what I like to do when I'm not making them for my kids is I'll add in green onions, but they don't seem to like the green onions in it. But green onions or chives adds a little extra color and flavor. But Torin, he is very much why do you add green onions to everything, Mom? And I'm like, because they're so delicious. And then we're gonna add in about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of garlic salt. So a couple good shakes over. And then let me grab a different spatula to kind of mash these up. Which one do I wanna use? Yeah, maybe we'll use this one. Let me grab a fork. A fork is what I want. I used to have a potato masher back in the day, but it was something I just never used, so I got rid of it. And now I'm like, oh, I had it always for my twice-baked potatoes. But again, I don't make these all that often, but they are delicious. So we're gonna mash all of this together and kind of just mix it up until you've got one kind of cohesive mixture. Again, I realized I pulled out my mixer here. And that way I can kind of whip it together, almost like you're making a cheesy mashed potato. I know, my brain is on the fritz here. I forgot I grabbed this out because it will make it easier. When I make these for a large group, I get my stand mixer out and I whip the insides with my stand mixer because it does make it a lot easier. And you want to do it while your potato guts are still hot or warm so that you can, it melts everything together. There we go. Beautiful. So as you can see, we now have a pretty cohesive mixture. And while the cheese isn't completely melted, when we pop it back in the oven, it will finish up melting. Okay, let's stuff these guys. We'll put our layer of cheese on and then they'll bake for, I would say it's about 10 minutes that you need on about like a 450 or whatnot. So we'll pop these in for our last bit of cooking of the sourdough bread. So we'll stuff these guys, just fill those boats right back up. And I will say don't overstuff them because you're gonna come back and finish it up. You don't wanna overstuff and then have to go take it for it. You should have a little bit more base than what you took out because again, you added cheese and butter and sour cream and whatnot. But again, you wanna make sure you have enough to fill all of yours. There we go. twice baked potatoes were always something my mom made on special occasions growing up. And everybody was just their favorite. They're like, Mom's making twice baked potatoes. It was just one of our favorite things because they do take a little bit extra work in it, but they are so good. Here we go. And if you want them to look extra bougie, you can get a piping bag and you can pipe them in there and get those things, but who needs that? It just needs to taste good, right? So get all of this goodness in here. Don't want any of it to go to waste. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna sprinkle a little bit of cheese over the top of each one. For it. You could also do like sliced cheese if you want to, but I find that the sprinkled cheese melts a little bit nicer. So we'll do a little bit of the white, and then we'll do a little bit of the yellow cheddar. And I feel like with twice baked potatoes, you can actually experiment with the different cheeses to do some different flavors. Gouda, Parmesan, mozzarella, I think they would all play really well. Just me and changing up the spices too. Okay, beautiful. We've got these ready. We'll pop these in the oven and when the last 10 minutes of our baking of our sourdough, which is ready to take our lid off. So hopefully the sourdough cooperated with us. Grab this out. And steaming. We'll pop our lid off here. Beautiful. I tried to score it as much as I could earlier, but it didn't want to cooperate with me, but it will still puff out and kind of pop when I bake it for the second part. So we're gonna put it in our oven here, and we're gonna bake this at 450. So I'm gonna turn my oven off and then bring it to 450, and we're gonna do it for 20 minutes. There we go. And I will put my twice baked potatoes in there in about 10 minutes so they can finish off together. You're gonna wanna do your potatoes at a higher temperature to warm it up and melt that cheese for it. And that's just because they're already cooked and you're just kind of doing that last part for it. Okay, let's get our steak. Well, I'll get my onions sliced up and sauteing for our green beans, and then we'll get our steak seasoned and we'll start working on our garlic butter to cook it in. Because they're not very thick steaks, so they're not going to need a lot of cooking time. These ones I'm gonna do the full time in the pan. When I do have thicker cut strips, like a New York strip or whatnot, a lot of times what I'll do is I sear them off if I'm gonna cook them inside and not on a grill. I'll sear them off on both sides and then finish them up in the oven so that you don't overcook them. But these are smaller, so I can do the sear and then lower temperature with the drizzle butter over it to really just bring in that deliciousness. Let me grab my olive oil here for our green beans. Put in about a tablespoon. We're gonna kind of caramelize up our onions first. I need a new one. Not enough. Here we go. There we go. Hopefully I can get it there. Okay. So about a tablespoon of olive oil in here. I'm going to turn my heat on about a 6, so not super high, because this is a metal pan and it's going to conduct that heat a little bit higher than with a non-stick one. So if you put it too high, you will burn your onions before they caramelize. And that's because it is that kind of that direct metal. Okay, let me give our onions a quick toss in the olive oil. And then we're gonna do our steak. Okay, while our onions are starting to cook here, we're going to cook our steak again in this kind of garlic infused butter. So we're gonna do a little bit, we're gonna sear them off, then we'll put our butter in and we'll cook it a little bit lower. So we'll have a quick sear, but then we'll finish them off lower. Let me add in, I'm gonna start with about 1.5 tablespoons of butter with a slight drizzled olive oil to start with, because we're gonna sear off just at a slightly higher temperature. There we go. So I like that combination of the butter and oil because it's gonna prevent the milk solids from burning. And then let's get these seasoned up. Slide this right up here. I'm gonna give my apples another stir here. You can see they're starting to get nice and translucent, which is lovely. Beautiful. Okay, for our steak, we're gonna do it real simple here. We're gonna go a nice drizzle of Worcestershire over it. This is gonna help break down the fat in the steak, which will keep it nice and juicy and tender. We're gonna do a little bit of black pepper. Drop an apple. So just a little bit of black pepper. A little shaky, shaky. And then garlic salt. I don't make my seasoning on my steak super fancy because I like for the meat to shine. I don't want to dress it up with a whole bunch of different spices and whatnot. Just Worcestershire, garlic salt, and black pepper. And then we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna do the exact same on the other side. And then after we sear off our steaks, then we'll add in some more butter and some garlic in the pan and we'll kind of cook them, finish them off with that. We're gonna flip these guys over and we're gonna season them on the other side as well. And these are again, not like a super bougie cut, it's just a petite sirloin on here. But they're tender and they're delicious and they're just a simple, steak to use.
When you get a second, can you go over what you put in the apples?
Yes. So right now for the apples, I have 4 Pink Lady apples that we peeled and diced up. I added in about a little over a tablespoon of butter, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, about a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and the juice from half a lemon. So we're just kind of cooking them over a nice lower heat to make them extra tender and delicious. And we're gonna add our pepper on this side. There we go. And then our garlic salt. Swirl. Mix my butter and my oil up. And then I'm just gonna get a little drop of water and see if we've got a good sizzle. I can hear the milk solids sizzling, but I want the oil to sizzle too. And I think I grabbed enough water on there. There we go. Oh, maybe a little bit warmer. I wanna make sure it gets hot enough because I wanna sear off my steak, but I don't want it so hot that I'm gonna burn my milk solids. So it's kind of waiting for the perfect temperature and then we'll turn it down and cook it lower. But we'll baste it with our, with the garlic butter as we're cooking it. Okay, I'm just breaking up my onions here so that they all can kind of caramelize up and then we'll add in our green beans. Okay, that should be ready. You can hear that sizzle happening right when we put it down, which means we've got a great temperature. There we go. And you know what? I'm going to spit out a second pan, and we're going to cook off the other 2 in another one because I don't want to crowd this pan too much.
You have a question? Why add the butter with the oil?
Because I love the flavor of the butter. I just don't like it doesn't cook at a high enough on its own. The milk solids will burn if you have just the butter. The oil kind of protects the milk solids from burning, so you can heat it up a little bit higher. I'm just gonna do a switch over here because I have a little bit more room. at that burner. I'm gonna turn my back one up higher. There we go. And then I'm gonna get a little drizzle of olive oil and butter in this pan so we can cook off those last two ones as well. That way we don't have to do it in two batches and they can all kind of finish up at the same time. Put a little bit of butter in here. We'll get that cooking. Let me check my time on my potatoes because I want to put those in. I got 2 minutes before I want to pop them in. Okay. And as you can see, the more we cook our apples, that liquid is going to kind of evaporate off and it's going to leave us with kind of almost like a sticky base to it, which will make it wonderful. Okay, our onions are starting to get a nice kind of caramelization on it. You can see they're starting to get yellow with a little bit of golden brown on the edges. So we'll throw in our green beans here in just a second. I'm gonna rotate my pan. And then we'll flip these here in about a minute or two. And then after I've seared off both sides, we'll turn the heat down lower. And then what we're gonna do is just spoon our garlic butter over it to cook it to a nice medium rare, which is the way we like our steaks. There we go. You don't want to just try to sear it off on all the way through on one heat because the more likelihood is you're gonna overcook it before you can kind of get it through. So sear on hot, turn it down low, and then let it cook a little bit more gradually. Beautiful. You see we've got our nice little sear marks on here. Okay. And then we'll sear off this side. And then I'm gonna add more butter and some garlic, and I'm gonna turn my temperature down to about a 4. Get this guy all the way high up here. That way we can cook those last two off. I was tempted to want to shove all my steaks in this pan, but you really need to have space around it so that it cooks up properly. Once that's hot, we'll put these steaks on, but while we're doing that, we can bring our green beans over here and add them into our mix here. So they were washed and trimmed, so they shouldn't have any of the sticks on it. These are like French green beans. Grab the last little bit and pop them in here. I'm going to give these just a nice coating in our butter, and we'll let them kind of start cooking up. These we'll know the green beans are ready when they have a dark, vibrant green color versus the palish white color of the green on there. Okay, let's see. We're getting there with that. Let's check our sear. We're looking good. So now I'm going to turn my temperature down again to about a 3 or 4. We're going to add in more butter, which I know it seems crazy, but you're not going to have all that butter on the end product, but you're going to be basting it, which is going to add a lot of flavor. But you don't want your heat too high because we're going to be adding in our garlic, which is going to cause it to cook. And then we're going to pop our potatoes in here in just a second. So I'm going to put my garlic, about a teaspoon and a half. I'm going to just place it right on top of my butter here. So once it melts, we'll be able to go down. We're going to pop our potatoes in the oven now. That will bake up at 450. And we'll take them out right after we take out our sourdough. And pop them right there. We'll do a rotate. Okay. So we've got our butter here. Let me grab a spoon for basting over this. And this is when I say what you're going to do is with your butter and your juices, you're going to just continuously spoon your herbed butter over the top of your steak. So this is like a butter basting on it. And it's going to add so much flavor to it. But you need to have a good enough amount of butter in order for you to kind of completely coat it. And this is going to heat it and allow it to cook. Okay, but you need your stove on lower, but you have to sear off first. So there's a couple steps, but it's gonna give you a really juicy and tender steak. Okay. We've got our two petite over here. I'm gonna turn this, we're gonna sear them off on our kind of our medium high, around a 7.5. We'll sear them off, and then we'll do again our little butter basting on it. Give our apples a little bit of a stir. I'm gonna move this right out of the way. Wipe a little bit of this and bring this. Okay. And the reason I don't put my garlic in until I turn down the temperature is if you put it in too soon, when you're doing that high heat sear, you're gonna burn your garlic. And you want it to really infuse into the butter. And again, nice and low.
What cut of steak?
These are just petite sirloin, so not necessarily the best steak, but they work really well for a butter bath. Sirloins are a leaner cut of meat, so the butter bath helps them really get nice and juicy and flavorful. There we go. We got them seared off beautifully on this side. And we'll sear them off, and then we'll do our butter bath for that one as well. Give our So again, another great thing, if you love like rosemary or thyme, you can add in a couple sprigs into this butter to give it more of an herbal flavor to it. This is just delicious. So this is just a really simple way to cook your meat while keeping it nice and tender and moist and delicious.
What temperature do you have the apples cooking?
The apples are cooking on a low, so they're at about a 2, a 3 right now, so just nice and low. We start them on high, and then once they've reduced out their liquid, I bring them down lower so that they can simmer in their own juices and get nice and tender. Okay, we've got our lovely green beans here. They're starting to get a nice kind of vibrant color to them, which means we're getting to that tender crisp. We'll season them up in just a second. I always wait to season them after they've done the majority of the cooking so I don't burn my spices on the bottom of it. I'm gonna grab a little bit of onion powder and then my cornstarch for my apples to thicken those up. So let me grab that. And my onion powder, where are you? Okay, let's baste these again. Again, just continuously drizzling this butter over it on a nice low temperature.
What's your trick to make sure the steak is tender?
Is low temperature after you sear them off, and then this drizzle of the butter. So we've seared off both sides. I'm going to turn this now down to about a 2, between a 2 and a 3. We're going to add in a little bit more butter. So I have enough to drizzle over it. I'm going to have to do a little bit more because I need to make sure I have enough to spoon over. And then I'm going to add in a spoonful of my garlic. I'm going to put it on top of the butter because that butter that's in there already is still hot, and I need it to cool down just a little so I don't burn the garlic.
And how long after you turn it down?
So what I like to do is, it's just honestly depending on how thick it is, but you should be able to give yourself like a little tap on your steak and know where you're at. Right now mine are almost to a medium rare. They've got a little bit of give, but they're not super firm for it. Now you can flip them over if to kind of help cook it up a little bit faster, or you can do a really slow basting on it. I'm gonna flip them because they get this lovely kind of coloring on the other side as well with it. Just that nice kind of brownish, beautiful flavor to it. But you can see we're still got very tender steaks in here right now because this temperature is so low that it is kind of giving you the I'm gonna rotate and put this guy over here with a little bit higher heat. But it's just giving you enough heat to continually to warm it up so it cooks up there, but it doesn't burn or overcook your food. Think about how like a sous vide keeps your temperature nice and low as it kind of cooks it evenly. There we go. Spooning our delicious butter over it with our garlic. Beautiful. And you can see they're very tender right now. Right now, they're almost to a medium rare, but not quite. But make sure you turn your temperature down. Don't keep cooking them at your high one, or you're gonna cook them through much faster. Okay, let's give these green beans a quick toss. And then we're gonna sprinkle our spices over them and we'll let them, I just threw in an onion over there. We'll add a little extra flavor. Okay, we're gonna add in our onion powder, which is gonna add a nice extra little bit of coating to the green beans, which I think allows the spices to stick a little better. We already have a lot of onion in there, so it'll be delicious.
Do you need to remove the string on the green beans?
These would have already been, like, most of them have been clipped. There's a few in there that still have it, but they're already kind of trimmed and clipped up, so I always buy the ones that they do it now. They always forget a few, but they're not too bad.
And do you have a cookbook?
I don't have a cookbook yet, but I'm going to be working on it, and so because everybody keeps asking me on there, so that is my future goal for this next year. But I do send out recipe cards to our members. I try to send out 3 each week based on recipes we've cooked and that everyone's kind of requesting for it. But for everyone else, I also upload all of my live videos to the link on our page, so you can always watch and recreate our recipes. Let's get our butter drizzled over. Look, and these are just about done. Beautiful. Again, and this is gonna give it so much flavor. So I'm gonna turn this one off because I want it just to sit now, but they still have that nice little, you know, the feeling of about a medium rare. Let's see, these ones still need a little bit longer because they were added in later. Let's get our apples here are just about translucent. As you can see, you have a few more that are still white, but most of them are starting to be translucent, so they're perfect tenderness. Our sourdough is ready to pop out. And this is our strawberry swirl sourdough on here. And so I use strawberry preserves, and during the lamination process, I spread the strawberry preserves out. And pop it in here, but got it nice and big, and then we'll grab out our potatoes here in just a second. This is the one who didn't cooperate in scoring, but it's still going to be delicious nonetheless. We'll set this right here, and then I'm going to go grab our potatoes real quick. Turn off my oven. Beautiful. Let me grab another little trivet. Look at these gorgeous twice baked potatoes. The cheese is melted and everything, so they're just about ready. And let's take our sourdough out. Hopefully it will cooperate with me. You can see we've got a little bit of this nice oozing out from the sugar preserves. In there. Perfect. Now it didn't score the nicest, but that nice dark color from it is actually the sugar from the strawberries kind of caramelizing up on the crust of it. If we have time, we might cut it in half, but we'll have to let it sit for a little while. Okay, let's get our spices mixed into the green beans here. Now that they're on their final little place, let's baste our last ones. And then I'm going to give them a tap. You know, these feel just about perfect. So I'm going to turn those off. coat them a couple more times with this lovely herby butter. I'm gonna do that right over here as well with these. And again, just perfect. They've got a nice like little tender touch to them, but seared off. Ooh, don't wanna lose that guy. And then we're gonna add in a little dusting of cornstarch to thicken up our apples just a little bit. My husband and kids love the jelly apples, like the ones you get in the gas station apple pies. They just love that. And you get that with that little bit of that cornstarch in there, which is why I add my butter to my base, because it takes away kind of that powdery flavor or texture that cornstarch can have. You need just a little bit of fat in there to get that perfect gelling up. So, and I don't mix it all in at once, just in a little bit on there until it starts to gel up. I don't like to add too much because you don't want to have it too jelly. Here we go. Nice little sprinkle over. And then we'll mix this in here. And the more you add, the thicker it's gonna get. And ideally, I just want a nice thick sauce that clings to the apple, but it doesn't need to be a complete gel. So we'll add one last bit, and then those should be enough to get us there. It's gonna be a little over a tablespoon, I think. Okay. There we go. I can already starting to feel the texture change. Perfect. Okay, let's get ready to serve up our dinner here. I'm gonna turn off my green beans because they are nice and ready. You see we've got this nice kind of dark green to them, which is gonna give us this lovely kind of tender crisp to it.
You have a question, does baking soda do the same thing?
No, you cannot use baking soda. Baking soda and cornstarch are two very different ingredients. Baking soda would give you a really bitter taste to it, and it would not thicken it up at all. Cornstarch is kind of that binder there, so it's going to give it a gel-like consistency. Now you can always, if you don't like cornstarch, you can always sprinkle a little bit of flour to kind of get you there. It doesn't work as well. Or you could cook the apples until they've reduced down to a syrup. Let's clear off some of this, and then we're going to serve up our dinner, because it looks like we are all ready here. Okay, slide this out of the way. And I'm going to grab this guy because he looks beautiful. Okay, so we have our garlic braised steak that we seared off in our pan. We seasoned with Worcestershire, black pepper and garlic salt, and then just did a nice, again, garlic butter kind of braising of it. Our twice baked potato that we stuffed with our base of our potato, sour cream, garlic salt, cheddar cheese, and then coated it with nice, lovely base of cheese on top and rebaked it. We'll serve it with our panned, kind of sauteed green beans and onions with garlic and black pepper. And for our sweet little treat on the side, because you've got to have spiced apples with baked potatoes, but we have our sweet and cinnamon spiced pink ladies that we added brown sugar, a pinch of vanilla, and cinnamon for the perfect little extra sweetness. And then we'll have a slice of our strawberry swirl sourdough bread. Now we have over here. So we've got it popped up. This is going to be lovely. It's got a nice kind of golden brown crust. We've got this nice little sugar crust on the top from the strawberry swirls. And when we cut into it, still has to sit for a few more minutes. You'll have that strawberry swirl throughout. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to our page and search for what we cooked, and you can always watch and cook along with us again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got my all-clad pans, my hex-clad, my Dutch ovens, my knives, my cutting board, all the different things I use in the kitchen I have in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like.